Bree, oh my God, did you see Brian's hat? Vincent, oh ha 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 ha.
What the hell?
Bree, he looks so stupid, I can't breathe.
Thanks to its uniquely odd sense of humor, its inherent memeability, and legitimately impressive lineup of guest stars, the Netflix comedy series I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson has become nothing short of a sensation. It's clever, subversive, and genuinely hilarious, but while it's certainly the most popular series Robinson has ever starred in, we would respectfully submit that the best series he's ever starred in is actually a largely overlooked sitcom called Detroiters.
How you feeling?
I'm in the sweet spot. Not too drunk, not too sober.
Me too, baby. Let's go in for the kill.
You got it, baby.
If you caught our video about how Tim Robinson failed forward, then you already know that along with Brian Doyle Murray, Robinson holds the dubious distinction of being one of the only 2 Saturday Night Live cast members to be demoted from the cast to the writer's room. But you also already know that he now sees the experience as a good thing. It was behind the scenes at SNL that Robinson ultimately came into his own as a comedy writer, learned how to be a producer, and became close with his current creative partner, Zach Cannon. Working together, the two would later create the 2019 series I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. And if you're familiar with Robinson's work, it's most likely because of that show. Like SNL, I Think You Should Leave is a sketch comedy series, but whereas Robinson's sense of humor proved too unusual for the stage at Studio 8H, it's the defining characteristic of the wildly successful Netflix show, which already has 3 hit seasons under its belt.
Hey, honey, having fun?
No, your freaking babysitter idea got me in huge trouble. Now I have to embarrass Barry.
What?
Hold on a minute. He's right by the china cabinet.
Famous for its cringe comedy and surreal sense of humor, I Think You Should Leave gives Robinson the freedom to embody an endless assortment of strangely sympathetic weirdos. The roughly 15-minute segments usually focus on characters who refuse to admit when they're wrong, regardless of how absurd the situation they're creating grows. Thanks to some popular internet memes, the most well-known among these are a guy in a hot dog suit who drives a hot dog-shaped car through a wall of a store and then pretends not to know who did it.
Whose car is this?
Yeah, come on! Whoever did this, just confess! We promise we won't be mad!
And the inventor of a vacuum that prevents people from choking, who incredulously asks,
You sure about that? You sure about that? That's why?
with regards to the reasons he was fired from a job he loves, and those two are really just the tip of the wacky iceberg. But even though it's the series that made Robinson famous, I Think You Should Leave was actually the second show Robinson and Cannon worked on together after SNL. Prior to that, they joined forces with Joe Kelly and Sam Richardson to create the Comedy Central sitcom Detroiters, which ran for 2 seasons starting in 2017. And if you didn't watch it when it was actually airing, don't feel bad because, well, almost nobody did. Set in the eponymous Michigan city, Detroiters, which is something of a love letter to the city it's named after, follows the day-to-day lives of local advertising execs Tim Cramblin and Sam Duvet, played by Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson respectively. The characters are lifelong best friends with a sibling-like bond who work together producing low-budget television commercials at the unsuccessful Cramblin Advertising Agency. Once a prosperous family business, the agency has been struggling since Tim became its leader, something that only came to pass because his father, the impressive and well-respected Big Hank, had something akin to a nervous breakdown. Tim and Sam now spend their days working on advertising campaigns for small local businesses. They personally chase down the clients, come up with the pitches, and run the sets, directing, and often even appearing in the commercials they produce. The thing is, they're terrible at all of it.
Hey, it's the Suck Twins! How's the sucking been?
You're the one who sucks!
Oh, my dude!
Despite an incredible amount of enthusiasm for the creative aspects of their work and a sincerely held dream of someday winning the business of a big Detroit car company, Tim and Sam's ideas are generally awful, and their execution is usually even worse. A typical example of their work is the spot they made for Lindsay's Mirror Depot, almost every shot of which manages to capture Tim, Sam, or their crew being errantly reflected in the mirrors they were filming.
Leah, I thought we kept telling you to take us out in post.
And I kept telling you I can't do that.
And then there was the time they poured boiling water all over the self-proclaimed hot tub king of Detroit for a commercial that wound up almost destroying his marriage because the final cut included footage of him flirting with a woman who wasn't his wife.
Oh, we're in trouble.
Pretty much every episode of the series includes one of Tim and Sam's commercials, which all bear a striking tonal resemblance to the fake commercial sketches that sometimes appear on I Think You Should Leave. The ones on Detroiters are often based on real local TV spots from the Detroit area, but they still make an ideal showcase for Robinson's trademark blend of absurdist and cringe humor. The same goes for Tim and Sam's interactions with the show's delightfully off-the-wall supporting characters and guest stars, including the whole staff of the Kremlin Advertising Agency, everyone in Tim and Sam's respective families, all of Tim and Sam's local business person clients, and, well, pretty much anyone else they cross paths with in their hometown. From Sam's dad to Tim's brother to the eccentric local news anchor Mort Krim, a real guy who plays himself on the show and was the inspiration for Will Ferrell's character in Anchorman, the inhabitants of the Detroiters universe are the same kind of surprisingly three-dimensional oddballs who would seem right at home in a sketch on I Think You Should Leave. And not just because the Netflix series uses almost the whole Detroiters cast as guest stars, although that certainly doesn't hurt. But at its core, Detroiters is really about the surprisingly wholesome and endearing friendship between Tim and Sam.
No pressure.
Stop. You know, when you say no pressure, it just adds pressure.
I honestly don't mean it like that, though.
I know you don't, bud. You're my best friend.
You're my best friend.
Despite frequent failures in both their business and personal lives, the two continue to believe in themselves and each other. So rather than a show about two dimwits who always wind up as the butt of the joke, you wind up with a show about two unabashedly romantic soulmates who are always there to hype each other up, and it's nearly impossible to not be charmed by their dynamic.
Let me call a cell phone.
Call it cell phone? What are you gonna call it?
What? You have to do stand-up.
I will. I promise.
It's not entirely unlike parts of the relationship between Robinson and Paul Rudd's characters in the 2025 black comedy Friendship. In fact, if you had to describe Detroiters to someone, you wouldn't be far off to call it something of a cross between that movie and I Think You Should Leave. That being said, the show's central friendship of Detroiters gives it a sincere, ongoing emotional dimension that a sketch show just can't match. Along with its more familiar structure and continuing storylines, that character work makes Detroiters a far easier and more accessible watch for the casual sitcom fan who might be turned off by Robinson's extremely absurdist approach to sketch comedy. And while it's not unreasonable to assume that the constraints and demands of an ordinary sitcom would diminish or tame Robinson's bizarre personal style, the actual result was the exact opposite.
You don't need your slip knot, man.
Yes, I do!
When are you gonna use it?
Take a shower?
You take a shower and slip knot?
Yes! Shut up!
You shut up!
The fully realized, ongoing world depicted in Detroiters elevated Robinson's absurdist humor by grounding it in a group of seemingly sweet and lovable characters that viewers would root for and relate to. The warmth of those characters and our affection for them has a way of smoothing over even the edgiest jokes, and in the end, the show was funnier for it. Of course, I Think You Should Leave lets Robinson riff on a slightly wider variety of situations, and no doubt it is a truly great series. But in the end, it's still just a sketch show, so with rare exception, those situations and the weirdo characters at the heart of them just can't emotionally affect viewers as deeply as the similar hijinks on Detroiters. Obviously, which one is better will largely depend on your personal taste in comedy and storytelling, but for our money, Detroiters succeeded at all the same things as I Think You Should Leave and more. Despite all that, the ratings on Detroiters' first run peaked with its pilot, and the rest of its first season drew a relatively unimpressive 500,000 viewers per episode. Its second season jettisoned its ad-of-the-week format in favor of more character-driven storylines, and its writing was noticeably stronger, but it did even worse in the ratings, and by the time it aired its last episode, Detroiters had lost over 25% of its audience. Luckily for everyone, the success of I Think You Should Leave prompted Netflix to acquire the short-lived sitcom in October of 2024 and give it something of a second life.
I am so glad to have you back.
Me too.
We at Nerdstalgic frequently complain about how willing streaming services are to prematurely cancel good shows, but the flip side is that those same services have given plenty of series a chance at a second or even a third life, because more people are willing to check out new shows once they know they love the stars or the creators behind them. And true to that, Detroiters has soared in popularity since finding a home at the same place that brought us I Think You Should Leave, which is to say, I Think You Should Leave makes a great advertisement for Detroiters. And we think both Tim Kremlin and Sam Duvet and Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson would love that. So what do you think? Are you a fan of Tim Robinson? And if so, do you prefer Detroiters or I Think You Should Leave? Let us know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely find others you'll like if you check out the rest of the channel. As always, thank you for subscribing to Nerdstalgic.